Welcome to the David Watson podcast. In today's episode, it's round 3 with Lindsey Burden. And today I finally had a chance to talk to her about coaching and her coaching business. And also, we caught up on her health since I last saw her. And thankfully, it's all good. Now, I do hope you enjoy this podcast. I hope you enjoy listening. I would really, really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and comment. And also, please check out Lindsey's website. Check out all of the guests whenever you listen to a podcast. Please, if you enjoy the podcast, do take the time to check them out, the services they offer, and give them support. And without further ado, good afternoon. Welcome again to the David Watson podcast.
Thank you for inviting me back.
You're very welcome, and thank you for the little time adjustment we had to do for my vaccine. So is everything good and well with you?
It is. I mean, apart from anything, it's a beautiful sunny day. I looked out the window, which no one else can see the window or see me looking out. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
It's not much help to anyone else. I looked out of the window.
Yeah.
And I've had to pull the blind but it's just a really beautiful day, and I've had a really lovely week. So it feels nice to end on a high and the sun shining.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the reasons, because this is actually the third podcast we've done.
I know, you must be bored talking to me.
No, actually. I like the fact that we get into some random conversations. And the second one we did was about your breast cancer and everything. How is all that now? Is that all good? Were you all clear?
Yes, I'm all fine because I had a mastectomy. I am cancer-free and I didn't need any radiotherapy or chemotherapy. So I am all good, back to full
Fantastic.
health, as they say.
Excellent. But apart from the fact we do tend to get to random conversations when you and I start talking, it occurred to me that the reason I was introduced to you in the first place is because you're a business coach. You can tell I've just had some biscuits. A business coach. And that's originally why I got you on the first podcast. But we actually hardly spoke about it.
I know. It's crazy. We just chat, don't we?
We did, yeah. We did just get into random chats and stuff. So just to sort of follow that theme, how are you coping in COVID lockdown again with the children back at home, homeschooling?
Homeschooling. Well, I'm very fortunate in that my husband, due to ill health, this is going to sound like a random sentence, but I'm very fortunate due to the ill health of my husband, he's given up work.
Silver linings.
Yeah, there's a silver lining in everything, isn't it? So yes, my husband is no longer working as of the 1st of January. So he's taken over homeschooling. So for me, it doesn't really impact me having the kids at home. It didn't really impact me last year, but what I have noticed, see already the random conversations, what I have noticed, I think last year we dealt with lockdown in a very different way. And this year I'm certainly seeing more people, particularly women with children, who are finding it much harder. And in some respects, I think that's because the way we are homeschooling is different. Before, homeschooling was if you got them to do anything, that was enough. And now you are being given assignments, so you have to get your children to complete a number of things each day, is the theory. So my husband sits with my son and works through. He was very excited because he was up early today and finished by 12. And Maisie's a bit older, so she does her own thing. But yeah, it is very different. But I'm very fortunate that it hasn't had an impact on my business because I can continue to work, and I have an office in our house, and I shut the door and I hide away.
Do you go back in at the end of the day with like, right, can I just with a little checklist? I want to make sure you lot have been doing this properly.
No, I get called in sometimes. My son sometimes comes in to tell me that Daddy doesn't understand the question.
We need additional help.
He's only 9. Yeah, Frankie's only 9. So yeah, it's a little concerning. But sometimes it's just my husband, for medical reasons, doesn't process things as quickly, and I just go, it's da 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 da. And yeah, sometimes my daughter comes in. But actually, that's why I wanted my own business, because I wanted to be able to run it around my family. And I wanted to be here for my family. So actually, I say the door's closed. It's only really closed when I'm coaching. And even then, to be honest, it's not unusual for them to come in and say hello. I have lovely clients. They don't mind.
I think, I know it wasn't with you, but I think I might have told you this before when I had a podcast with a guy called Gid Cedric, who's a musician, a music producer and stuff. And my niece walked in the middle of the podcast. And I just like, oh right. So I then just gave her the headphones and got her to talk to Gid, and she did like all 8, 9-year-old girls do. She went incredibly shy. Like, who's this random stranger? And I left it in the podcast. I never edited it out. It's still there for people to watch my niece having a random conversation with this guy she's never met. And Gid was an actual legend and started talking to her.
Most of my clients will say hello, and they know the names of my children anyway, so most of the time I say hello. But that's because I work with amazing people. Yeah. And actually that's because our circumstances since March last year have changed, and our expectations have changed, I think, and what is acceptable has changed.
Well, this is it. I think because anybody who's had a lot of experience with Zoom meetings, because of I don't know why I suddenly went to Zoom meetings and lifted my voice, but we everybody is just used to this now because people are working from home, and up and down the country and around the world, there's been some high-end executive meetings, and someone's kid has come running in, daddy, mummy. Do you know what I mean? And like the chairman of the board is like, so I'm gonna have to take 5 here, guys. I just got to sort the kids out, and there's some lowly workers.
It has become more normal.
Yeah, it has. It's become.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's about, finally we're seeing that our businesses, and recognizing that our businesses are not separate from who we are outside of the office. And I think that's a really important message, or a really important change that perhaps will come out of this situation that is COVID.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because on one hand, it's broken down a lot of barriers. My fear, and this is the skeptic and the cynic in me, the fear, because I know what I potentially could be like as a business owner, is if you can work from home, what other country could I get it done in?
There is that. I mean, for me as a business coach, I can and always have been able to coach anyone and anywhere. And I actually think this, I have a client who does outsource outside of this country. And I've met other people before who have done it. So it wouldn't be a new thing. And actually, there is something really important about when we're outsourcing and looking for help and support in our business. Like the cheapest help and support, and sometimes that is what happens. Having said that, certainly the client that I've got who outsources work, I mean, they absolutely, it is a godsend to their business, and it works, and they couldn't get that work done here.
Yeah, but I mean, so I do agree. It's my more concern is because like you and I are quite individual in the sense that you work from home. Your business is designed for that. You are the brand and the product. It's the same when I coach. It's the same when I'm podcasting and stuff. So actually, it's because of what we do that is unique that allows us to have this flexibility. But when you think of those, like I think of some of the engineering projects I've worked on and stuff like that, is actually you could have probably got rid of 2/3 of us and outsourced it to another country because we were just doing the admin tasks that are required because of the sheer volume of paperwork that is turned up, and it's that churning out of the mill, and all of those engineers and all those draftsmen could have done any of that work from anywhere in the world as long as you had that qualification or that experience. But when you have these big companies, big projects, big organizations, there's a huge amount, probably 1/3 of the workforce is actually just what you need to support that environment. They provide a service as opposed to actually doing something practical. Oh, I've lost you now. Oh, you're back.
That was very strange, David. It looked like you were like that. With one hand in the air.
Did you worry then that I'd had some vaccine side effects? Like we joked about a minute ago. So,
well, and I don't actually know where you live. So, I could have dialed 999, but there's a man and he needs your help, but I have no idea where he is.
Yeah.
Yes, that was quite interesting.
They probably get that quite frequently.
That was a very strange side
effect. Yeah. But yeah, so what I was rambling on about. Yeah. So what I was rambling on about is that the larger the workforce under one roof, the more people you need to support that workforce, either it be cleaners, receptionists, admin staff, whatever. So like like I said, when I was on big engineering projects and there was like 1,000 people in a building, the engineers actually produced something, but about 1/3 of the staff were there to support the engineers to produce it. Whether it be just simple things like filing, photocopy, what I mean, runners around the office, and all of those support staff and stuff that you get.
I know what you're saying, but I'm on the other side because
Yeah.
on the other side, because I'm not. I wish I'd known you were going to say all this because I would have looked it up. There is a huge number of people who have started businesses. There is a huge number of people who have pivoted, that lovely word that we overused in 2020. Their business, they had to pivot their businesses, but it's opened up opportunities. So I think there will always be a natural ebb and flow, and that's okay, and that's what makes the world go around, and that's what makes life interesting. So I think there naturally will be an ebb and flow, and there will naturally be those kind of changes that we will see, and where some engineering may come slowly to not end, but change in the way it does it. Something else will come up, and that's just the way of the world.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's truth in that because that's how we ended up with all these microbreweries. People start becoming quite inventive. Look at all the different cheeses you get now, or everything that can be done locally, or do you know what I mean? There's something either local folklore about it. There's always some. So we adapt, and there's always these little nuances that throw up these things. Just people, the amount of people that now produce honey.
And what's quite interesting is over the sort of the last 10 months or however long, it's nearly a year, isn't it? Some of my clients have not been able to open their doors. So it's made them look at their businesses differently and made them go, well, actually, I never wanted to do that online because, and now they're sort of saying, okay, well, would it work? And it's given them the opportunity to test working in different ways. And I think that's what's really exciting and that can come out of this awful pandemic that we have been in, is that there are new opportunities and businesses have been able to change the way they work. They've been able to open up new revenue streams and avenues of working. And I think that's really, really exciting. And that for me, I've had a real privilege to work with a number of clients who've not been able to open their doors. And who still committed to working with me, and they're people that I so admire because they were saying, okay, I can't do that, so what can I do? Where can I put my time? What can I do in my business? And looking again, and although I don't like the word pivot because I just think it was all popular once and then it's come back again, but these are businesses that have gone, okay, I can't do it in that way. What didn't I want to do before and why? Is there another way of doing it? And they've had to be really creative. That's a much better word. Yeah. Businesses have been creative. And I think that's really, really exciting. And certainly it's a privilege to work alongside people that are doing that and be part of that journey.
And it's interesting as well because, like you say, people have had to become more creative with their businesses about taking them online. And absolutely. Because we can't go one-to-one with people and actually see them face-to-face, everybody else, the consumers themselves, have become much more adaptable to receiving services online. So they kind of are marrying up together by default.
Yeah, and we're finding a natural way. And I hope that continues, I think, because for a lot of businesses, it has opened up opportunities for them. And hopefully, going forward and out when our new normal, air quotes, comes along, we'll be able to continue with some of those things. Because for some of my clients, it's made the difference between rushing from pillar to post and actually being quite worn out by that, to bringing some of their elements, online and being given them breathing space, which has been really interesting.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because we have just, as a culture, have just accepted Zoom meetings. Yeah, 5 years ago, you would have laughed it out of any room. Even though people used to kind of do these weird web conferences, where you used to have like live meetings across, different countries and stuff, it was always a big palaver. It was always a big hassle. It used to take a lot of setting up, and you used to go to a special room in an office building somewhere. Do you know what I mean? And the IT geek would be there setting it all up and all of that. Whereas now that's just straight off the laptop, off an app.
I actually think that COVID has, I know certainly in my business, and particularly having breast cancer last year, it's made me look at my business and how I operate and wanting to operate more easily.
Yeah.
Or, and making it easy for me to operate, but equally easy for my clients to come and work with me. And it's made me slow down. And by slowing down, I've actually doubled my income and doubled my profit. So I've proved all the tools and techniques and strategies that I use in my business to show how it can actually work. Because I think the other thing I think I've noticed over the last 12 months is that everyone was in this mode of busy. I've got to be busy. I've got to be busy.
Yeah.
And I have always been passionate about, which is another word I don't really like pivot, but I've always been super passionate about helping business owners find the easiest way for them to achieve the results that they wanted. And that's always been key. It's always been about what do you want to achieve and how can we get you there in a way that's easy. But what the last 12 months has really shown me, and I can see now threading through my clients, is that they're going, do you know what? I can't be busy any longer. I don't want to push any longer. I want the same level of success. I want the same level of income, sometimes wanting more income, but I don't want to have to work hard. And we've been fooled into thinking that we have to work hard. So I've been doing a lot of mindset training and money mindset training with my academy group, and talking about, what are those old stories we hear? Money doesn't grow on trees. You've got to work really hard for it. You can't have it unless you've earned the money for it, and you've got to go to school and work hard, and all of those stories that we've been told. But who says we have to work really hard? Why is it we have to work really hard? Why can't we make it easier for ourselves to create the income that we want, that enables us to live the life that we want? And I think that's been the missing connection. I always talk about with my clients, we need to close the loop. So this is what you want to achieve in your business, whether it's working 3 days a week and earn 20K months, whatever it is, whether it's you want to earn 3K months, whatever that is, what does that mean to you in the business? So does that mean you can get more help? Does that mean you can improve your systems? Does that mean that you can bring in some software that makes it easier to work with your clients? But what do you want to take out of the business to pay yourself? And what do you want to do with that? Is it that you want to spend more time with loved ones? I don't know if you've read it, but there is the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss.
I have read that, yeah. And the 4-Hour Body, the 4-Hour Chef, Tools of
I've only
Tigers.
done to be honest, I'm only halfway through that one. It's a very large book, and I got others.
It is, yeah.
But one of the things that really struck me is he talks about, we've all heard those people say, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do this. When I'm going to retire, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to retire. And they never, ever retire. They don't actually retire because they don't know what to do with the time that they would have. It's the same. If you're telling me, if my client is telling me, I only want to work 4 days, Lindsay, part of the work we have to do is decide what they want to do with the 3 days. Because otherwise there's no connection to the business and there's no impetus to make it happen. And I'm all about making it happen.
It's interesting because I think it was Tim Ferriss where I learned about define your idea of success. Because he said over the years he'd met people who were like, if I can turn this business into £250,000 a year, $250,000 a year, I'll be happy. They reach that milestone. And then they're like, well, what if I can do it $1 million a year? And they chase that. Then they chase the 5 million, the 10 million. And he says, and then they get to 65, 3 divorces later, and realise they were at their happiest when they were at 250,000.
I think there's a couple of things there. One is they didn't aim high enough in the first place. So part of the work that I do with my clients is I say, okay, we need to get really clear. I always say we need to be clear of where you want to be in 10 years, because from that point, we just work backwards and then we really focus on what we need to do in the next 12 months. And until you know where you want to go in 10 years' time, it's really difficult to create the momentum that you need. And what happens is so I say, what do you want to do? And they were like, well, it would be quite nice. And I'd like this. Whoa, no. I want what makes you really excited. I want to know what's that secret thing. And women are really good at this. We hide it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and no disrespect to any men, and I'm sure men do it as well. I think men are much better at going, that's what I want. We hide it because we're not worthy, because we're still new to the workforce. We're still new to being a big
Yeah.
earner. All those, historical things that we're bringing with us. But what I want is, I want to know what's really inside, and I want to feel that bubble of excitement as it comes out.
Yeah.
And there's something really special about when you start prodding and poking, and then it starts coming, and then they start and they can't stop telling you about their dream. And I go, that's what you want. And I think that may be that case where you just go, well, I'll get to 250k a year and see how that goes. I'll just try. Where actually, if they'd gone, do you know what? I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to be a multimillionaire. They could have done it much, much faster. What they did is they possibly went for what felt okay to do, or they felt that that was achievable. But if you say that's, quite often what I see, particularly with income levels, say, what do you want to earn? I always push people up, because if you say I want to earn, the figures are irrelevant because they're always very, very personal. But if somebody says to me they want to be earning £2,000 a month, for instance, the chances of us getting there, it's going to be hard, because they're not, they won't quite reach it in the first month. So they go, well, actually 1.5 would be nice. Maybe 1,000 a month.
Yeah.
If you want 2k, we need to aim for 5. So keep pushing them up, so that you're always looking forward and always dreaming that little bit bigger. And I think that's possibly one of the reasons. But also, the other thing I was going to say is, I talk all the time about slow down and enjoy the journey. If you're not celebrating every tiny win, if you're not, really getting excited about the first time you hit your milestone, or for every client that comes in, you're missing the journey.
Yeah.
You're so focused here and pushing to get there, you've not learned, you've not grown, and you've not enjoyed the journey. And like, if we've learned anything in the last 12 months, life's too short to be wasting it. So actually, where do you really want to be? Let's do it, slightly slower, and let's enjoy the journey as we go. And I think this is really, really important, that people first of all know where they want to go, and then we can work out how to get there. But don't limit yourself. And women particularly, but I'm sure men do it, are really good at limiting themselves. And it's time to say no. Don't be ashamed. If you want to be a millionaire, state it. If
No, I
you want to
agree.
be a millionaire in 5 years, tell me. Be strong and be brave. And that's what I think we need to do more of.
I think if I'm going to add a difference between men and women, is like you were saying, that women hold it back and don't just, are not honest about it. I think men are dishonest about it sometimes as well. We will, from a sense of bravado, puff our chest up and say, I'm going to dominate the market. I'm going to be a world beater. But there's no substance to it. And just like whether it's male or female, then when the challenges and the obstacles come up, there's no foundations to push them over the wall to get through it. And and that's when you kind of find out, right, what did it really mean to you, and what does it really mean to you? Because you're getting ready to quit here, and this is supposed to be the dream you're passionate about.
It was one of the, I always say, I always talk about keys. There's been lots of keys in my business, and they all shift me forward. And one of the keys for me was about 3-4 years ago, when I used to go and have coffee with a local businessman, very, very successful. And I used to love, and I was just be really apologetic about taking his time. But he loved, just having coffee, talking about all that was going on. And I remember him saying, what's your 10-year plan? I said, well, I don't really have one. I said, I can't think past tomorrow, jokingly. And I'd known him long enough to say that. He was like, you need to get one, Lindsay. I was like, do I? Do I really need to get one? And I had this long conversation with him, and I really took it to heart.
Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have one. So how can I do this for me? And I think this is the challenge in business. I guide my clients to create their own blueprint for success. Because if there was a blueprint for success and it worked, and it really was $27 on Facebook, we'd all be multimillionaires by now.
Yeah.
And it's because we need to create our own journey and our own blueprints for success. So I thought, okay, how can I do this that works for me? And I created something that I now call the Planning with Alignment document. And I always say to my clients, it's just an A4 piece of paper. I say, right, hop in the time machine, take yourself 10 years in the future, and just have a ball dreaming. And that's the way I did it. I went, okay, well, I find it really hard to think that far into the future. And I asked my husband, I'm not great at visualization. He was talking about doing something with the windows earlier. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't see it in my head.
But you managed a 10-year plan.
This was the start of, I could do something on grey windows.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I just need to dream really big with no limitations. I always say, go 10 years into the future, no limitations, no ifs, buts, maybes, and no worrying about the how, and just dream big.
Yes.
And then I work on my way backwards. Because then I can say in the next 12 months, what are the key things I need to do in this 12 months that will move me towards that? And there's lots of reasons we don't like 10-year plans, you know. How do I know what I want to do? It's your plan. I say this all the time. It's your business, your plan, your rules. Next year, you're going to go back to that plan and you will change it and you tweak it. So I think, one, we're scared of doing that, but actually it was a massive turning point. And it's that, I think it's Bill Gates that said, you will seriously overestimate what you can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what you can achieve in 10. And it's so true. But once you can see forward, it helps you to not overwhelm yourself, to plan properly, and to not put so much on your plate that you've got no chance. And I would say, I used to consider myself the planning ninja. If you want a business plan, 10 pages long, it's got SWOT analysis, it's got objectives, you know, there will be an action plan on top of that. I'm your woman. But I never implemented it because I wasn't aligned to it. It didn't mean anything to me. And actually, I just filled this plan. One, it wasn't 10 years, it was only 5 years, but I just filled it with all this stuff I needed to do in the next 12 months. And then I'd get to the end of 12 months and go, I haven't done any of that. And then you just go, well, why not? And berate yourself. So actually, this way of working, which I had to develop myself, works really well with my clients, because I just go, it's no ifs, buts, maybes. You don't have to worry about the how. Just dream big. Think big. And I think this is so important. I use the sat nav analogy a lot. And until you put the destination into sat nav, you're just sat on your driveway. So until you decide what it is you truly want, you're going to be sat on your driveway. So once you know where you want to go, you plug it into sat nav. What's really special and clever about sat nav, when they work well, is that, you know, if you they help you go around the obstacles, through the traffic jams, finding alternative journeys. As long as you've got the end destination in mind, the journey can do a little bit of ebb and flow. Who knows, it might take you off down a track and find the most beautiful pub in the country that you didn't know was there. You know, that's the beauty of knowing where to go. You don't have to worry quite so much about the journey, and you can have a greater flow attachment to that journey. And I'm all about flow, and I'm all about making it easy. I can't be bothered if it's hard.
No, I genuinely agree, because I think one of the things people underestimate is the hardest part sometimes of the journey is getting momentum. You know, and it can feel, you know, when you look a couple of weeks ahead, like you have a 10-year plan and you're looking a couple of weeks ahead and you're like, I can't figure out the next 2 weeks how I'm going to figure out the next 10 years. And the point is valid, but once you start building up that momentum, it kind of becomes perpetual motion, or a self-fulfilling philosophy, and it takes you there whether you want to go or not, you know, and it kind of does become this unstoppable machine. But you have to, almost like any heavy object, you have to start pushing it first, and then once it starts moving, it goes downhill and it doesn't need you anymore.
And I think there's also this thing around, we're really impatient, we want it all now.
Yeah.
And I felt that a little bit last year for me. I was like, I just doing all this work and it just doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And I did the one thing I tell my clients to do. I sat down and I thought back 6 months and I wrote down everything that I had done. And it was about June time, and I had this massive realization that I was creating. So my first operation for breast cancer was in March. Well, from March forward, I was creating consistent income months. Okay. I had doubled my income and doubled my profit. But because I was so, and I wasn't busy, because that would be the wrong thing to say, but because I was focused on the direction and the thing, I'd forgotten to enjoy the journey. And it was only when I looked back and went, oh, and I've done this and I've got that sorted and I've simplified this. I was like, look how much I achieved in just a short period of time. We're so focused on it happening. We're so focused on wanting it now that we don't enjoy the journey, we don't slow down for the journey. And I think that's often why people get fed up, because they can't see it happening quick enough. And that's when they start to, buy anything that's shiny. And how many times have we seen, people that, I've done this course and I've done that course and I've done that course and I'm still stuck. Yeah, stop buying the courses.
Yeah.
I say that
Implement
a lot.
one of them.
Just stop.
Yeah,
Just stop. You've done enough courses. And I have said that to many a client. Please stop doing the courses.
But
Let's get focused.
Because you get that a lot, don't you? I know this from personal experience, and Caroline, who you know, my therapist, would tell you this about me. The biggest, if I have an issue about anything, is that I'm always trying to figure out how. Just let's let it unfold, let it happen on its own.
Yeah.
Set the big idea, set the journey in motion. But I'm like, well, okay, once we hit, so we're coming out of my house, we've turned onto the A303, right? The sat nav set. You don't. Well, when's the next junction? Where the do you know what I mean? I've got to know the answer to everything, and it's
it's essentially that's that perpetual motion. What you're not doing is not giving yourself, and I see this with clients, and I've done it myself. We're not giving ourselves the space to receive creative solution.
Yeah.
We're so busy trying to find the answer. Our poor subconscious mind is going, okay, I tell you what, when you're ready and you stop thinking about it, I'll give you the solution. But until you get there, I'm not giving it to you. I'd made a decision that I was going to do webinars. I'm going to do a webinar every month. Then I thought, a webinar every month's a bit much because I already do sort of a live experience. So I'll do one every other month. And I was like, right, I'll have to work out how to do it on Zoom or find some other platform. And I always choose a word or words for the year. And my words for 21 are the same as 20, and it's fun and easy. I suddenly went, do you know what? This is just not fun and easy. I'm not doing it. And then in the instant that I said, I'm not doing webinars.
I'm having a sulk. You can all piss off.
It wasn't a sulk. I just went, it's not fun. It's not easy. And I don't want to do it. And then from nowhere it came, well, why don't you just do Facebook Lives two a month? Because you love going live. You love being on Facebook and you can promote those really easily. Why don't you do that instead? I was like, oh my goodness. Why didn't I just do that instead? And it's because I'd gone, do you know what? I'm trying too hard.
Yeah. And
I just stopped. And the minute I did, I just went, I'm going to do that instead. That feels fun and easy.
That's exactly what I did with my podcast. The first thing I did was just basically told Caroline she'd be my guest, my first guest, because it was kind of not her idea, because I'd always wanted to do podcasts or had done for a few years and kind of kept coming up with excuses. And I could always find a reason why I couldn't do them, because this wasn't right. I didn't know enough about this, blah, blah, blah. And in one of my sessions, and this is that I have to have everything in the right place, in the right order, and then I'll move forward. And in one of my sessions, Caroline kind of was just like, enough. Why can't you just have a what the fuck box? Just, you've got to have all these boxes that are yeah. I think I have told you before. You got all these things you need to tick. What happened to just what the fuck? So I literally apply that to everything now. So as soon as she said that, I was just like, So the next time, the next session, I was like, I'm going to do a podcast, and you're going to be my first guest, because it's technically your fault, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know. Sorry, I didn't know how to do a podcast, so I booked the date with Caroline. So then, right, well, now you're going to have to figure it out. A guy called Carlton realised that I didn't know what I was doing, and was like, well, actually, you're going to need this bit of software. You can't do it off Zoom like you think you can, blah, blah, blah. And I had nothing else figured out after that, except I was trying to line up a couple of guests, people I knew. And the thing that I had to really rein in is this knowing who my guests would be and getting it under control. And that, when I relaxed into that, that's when I came up with the idea of, I will just ask my guests if they know somebody that would want to do it. And of course, Caroline introduced me to you. You happen to be a business coach, and you introduced me to loads of people.
I just keep sending them.
You do. Do you know what I mean? And there's this perpetual motion now. I've done 2 podcasts. This is my second podcast this week. I think I've got 2 next week. I've got 2 in the week after. And I'm always looking for new introductions, and that's not dropping a hint, by the way, but please do. But it has worked. That idea that just came to me when I decided I'll just let it sort itself out. It is that at the end of every podcast, I say to my guests, if you know anybody that'd like to be on, and now I've spoken to people all around the world.
There's a phrase I use, if not now, when?
Yeah.
And it's so true that, and I have worked with people, and when I just do this, I'll do that. And not just people I've worked with them, and I hear it a lot. When my website's live, I'll do this. When I've got that, I'll do that. And I just need to get to this income level, and then I'll do this. What are you waiting for? If not now, when?
Yeah.
And I always say as well that there will always be something. So last year there was the pandemic, but if there had been no pandemic, I still would have had breast cancer.
Yeah.
There will always be something. There will always be something that will, I was going to say get in your way, but I don't think that's true. I don't think things come along to get in our way. I think things come along to enable us to grow, enable us to move forward and find another way of doing it. So there will always be something. When we finish the pandemic, we'll be back to Brexit.
I look at it another way. I find I definitely take your point that things come along to help us grow. But I also think the universe just chucks in little things to make you decide if you really want it or not.
I always talk about the universe tests.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've got clients now that go, "Oh, Lindsay, the universe is really testing me." And they would never have said that before working with me. I got one that my internet's not been working for down to test too far from the universe. I struggle with that because like you, I always sort of giggle to myself when something happens and I go, "Oh, universe, you're testing me." But I'm not sure if they are tests. I think they're just opportunities to grow again.
The reason I say tests, but again, very, completely happy with the way that you're looking at it, is because it's the difference between those people that use it as an excuse to stop or those that just, okay, I'll just carry on anyway. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, do you know,
yeah,
I had for 3 years, I'd wanted to do a podcast, but it'd come up with loads of reasons, self-doubt not to do it. Right. And it ranged from everything from I didn't know how to do it to not thinking that I was good enough to do it. It's, I could put 100 reasons in a hat, pull out any one of them, and they would all be valid in no particular order. Right. So, but it was that moment, like, that Caroline effectively with the what the fuck. It's the if not then, if not now, when? And it's just like, no, you're right. It has to be done now. And then I had plenty of opportunities because I found out things I didn't realize beforehand that I needed to learn, download, buy, and all of this. I didn't have a mic or anything. I didn't really realize it was that important. And then I discovered that the reason everything was so loud is because the levels were wrong. And I had to learn how to change the levels on my computer and all of it and tie it in with audio software and everything. But each one of them could have been a reason for me not to do it. Instead of just...
But you'd already got to that point of saying yes. And I think that's
yes.
the difference. Sometimes there is something we want to do. And for you, it was the podcast and it took 3 years. I also think there's probably a reason. I think because everything works out at the perfect time. Yes. Whether we like it or not, or whether it's our perfect time is irrelevant. Everything works out at the perfect time. And you having that conversation with Caroline was the perfect time.
Yeah.
And I always hold that as well. I think it's really important. But again, that's really easy for me to say because I read a lot of stuff about manifestation and law of attraction. So it's easy for me to say that. But I truly do believe that everything works out perfectly and it works out in perfect time. But sometimes we want it sooner or we think we're not ready.
Oh, no, I definitely
want... But it will always work out.
I definitely, hands down, want everything yesterday. And that's not quick enough. I want it before I even thought I needed it. Do you know what I mean? And I look at the universe and it's like the slowest delivery system on Earth. Do you know what I mean?
I think you need to let go of the outcome and the universe will deliver it quicker. While you're holding that, you are resisting the receiving of.
It's like Caroline's in your ear right now.
It's law of attraction stuff. When you're pushing and you're pushing and you're saying, I want it now, I want it now, I want it now, the universe can't deliver it. The other thing is make sure that you're really clear on what you want.
Well, that's the thing that I think holds back most people, is what you think you want and what you actually want are very, very different. And one of the analogies that I use with my own clients is everybody thinks they want to win the lottery, right? And kind of everyone does, like everyone would love to win. But when you break it down with them, they break it down to, well, no, I wouldn't want 100 million euros. That's too much. Not everyone's like that, but people do start. No, it'd be great if the mortgage was paid off, if I could have a new car. And it's right. So really what winning a large sum of money represents is not worrying about how bills are going to be paid, the roof over your head. What you actually want is a stress-free life. But you're telling the universe you can only get that if you win the lottery.
And actually we can live it, because we can experience what we want now if we just stop to start, because there is abundance all around us if we stop to see it. Where money's concerned anyway, it's all around us, but we're just often so fixated on a particular point, on a particular amount. I also think like you say, we have to be really, really clear what we want, and we have to be really clear on why. I've done some lives recently where I kept saying, it's great that you know what you want to do. And in fact, I worked with a client the other day. I haven't worked with her for about a year. And she was saying, she was quite stuck. And she said, but I'm doing this and I'm doing this, I'm doing my journaling, I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I said, but you're paying lip service to it. It's like, it was a massive realization. And I see that and I know I do it myself sometimes. I go, right, I'm journaling, I'm meditating, I'm adding tapping now, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why isn't it happening? Oh my, we have to just keep digging deeper, and we have to keep going below the level each time. And until we're able to be really honest with ourselves and just keep digging, we always have to, ask why. And I did this live and saying, you say, what is your why? What's your purpose? What is it you want to do? And then keep asking yourself, and why? And why? And why? Because that's when you get deeper and you get into the levels. And then that's, when the universe goes, I know what they want.
But this is it.
Now I can deliver it.
Because this is it. We're. I need to say this carefully because I want people to understand. But we are quite shallow creatures when it comes to our desires, in the sense of, like I say, like people will say they want to win the lottery. But when you get them to say, like, why, what it breaks down to is some months they feel like they're living hand to mouth. Other months they feel like, oh, I've done well this month. I've got a few hundred quid in the bank. But then the MOT on the car is due and they need a set of tyres. And they always feel they're in that position where they feel they're surviving, and they kind of, like, without trying to be corny, but they want to move into a place where they're thriving. And winning the lottery looks to them.
Ooh,
I know. We're just cutting out again.
again.
See, this is going back to obstacles in the universe, right? Testing me, right? Did you hear that?
You disappeared again. No,
Right.
You disappeared. And I do that frantic thing where I check I'm plugged in because I'm hardwired. I'm like, yes, I'm hardwired. Yes,
So
that's all
people
good, the lights are on.
listening to this on audio, the internet keeps dropping out. And this is interesting about the universe testing you. Because my internet would drop out, on Tuesday, I hardwired my internet. So I'm not on Wi-Fi anymore. I'm actually plugged into the system.
No.
And yet, but that's the point. That's the universe saying, you can do what you want, mate. We'll decide on the quality of your podcasts. Don't you worry about that. Because I am I'm actually wired to, I'm actually fully connected to the broadband, but it's coming up saying internet unstable. So that must be the broadband at my house, at my junction. It can't be you.
How strange. Well, I'm glad it's not me. Because if you remember the first podcast we did, you did disappear completely.
Yes. Was that the one? Was that
remember?
with you? I do. Is that the one though? Because I've had a few accidents like this where my brother unplugged the Wi-Fi to do the hoovering.
You blamed it on your mum. You told me your mum did it.
No, right. So that was another podcast. So it's happened twice. But this is what I mean, right? So this is what I'm saying. But if you're not careful, right, if you don't laugh about these things like you and I are, you will use them as excuses to beat yourself down. You will use them as excuses not to do something because it's not perfection. And for me, the biggest procrastination I had was chasing that perfection. Do you know? And now I'm just like, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I've mentioned this to guests before when I talked to, I was doing a podcast with Clark Bartram, an American fitness model. And I'd not chased him for a while, but I'd reached out and he was like, yeah, I'd love to do it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And yeah, everything was fine. It was a brilliant podcast. Absolutely loved it. He had a new product to launch. He was really pleased with the discussion. And when I went to listen back to it, it hadn't recorded him. The settings had changed on my software. Because I had no technical knowledge, didn't realise. And I was just like, shit. And he literally messaged me 10 minutes later, was like, really enjoyed that. There's some great sound bites that would be useful for the product launch. Can you send me the MP3, please? And I was just like, no, because I'm a complete klutz and I haven't got a clue what I'm bloody doing. And unfortunately, it only recorded. So you could see me and him talking, but you could only hear me. And when he spoke, it was like those old 1990s games uploaded, where it was just like squealy noises, And I was half waiting for a game to suddenly light up on the laptop, and I'll start playing it like it was 1995 or something.
But all of these things, they're just life. The stuff happens, life happens, and we mustn't allow those things to prevent us from.
It's exactly that.
What we really love. Now, I think there's also we've kind of been talking about an individual and how an individual feels, but for me, it's so important for my clients. But we need to have support networks so that we can reach out to people when those moments of and you're not quite sure what's gone on, or you just need to touch base with someone. And I think these networks are so important for days when you just feel rubbish. And I did a live the other day. You can tell I go live a lot. I did a live the other day, and we were. I go live all the time. What can I say?
Pro.
Now I can't remember. I was going to say. What was I
You were talking about networks and how important they are for supporting business.
They are, because, and this is what I was saying. Because it was on mindset. A general mindset, and most people would say I have got a really strong mindset, and I have, without any doubt in my mind. However, even I have shitty days, and that's what I was saying. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay not to be great. The beauty of a good mindset, and I always call it the mindset muscle, because it has to be exercised, it has to be worked out, and then it strengthens. Having a strong mindset means we can get past those days more easily. But it's okay to have them. And I always say, when you're having them, reach out to someone. Go have a coffee virtual coffee at the moment with somebody. Go and take the dog for a walk. Go and do anything. Take yourself away from where you were at. And I think this is really important, that we have those networks and those mechanisms. And it's why I always have a business coach, because I quite like programs, because it gives me a much broader range of support. But it's also why I've worked hard to build my own support network here. And I would advise any business owner to do that. Napoleon Hill, I think they talk about it as a mastermind, and it's really important that we have these people that we can lean on and call on, and are there for us in the good and the bad times.
Yeah, 100%.
We are all going to have days when it doesn't work out, when the internet's shocking, or all of those things. But I think it's the more help and support we can get, and that's quite a key thing. And I do talk about that with my clients. What support do you have? Within if your internet goes down, who do you call? If you're having a really bad day, do you have someone you can pick up the phone to? And in business, if you want to talk business, I usually suggest you don't talk to your family. Who can you talk to? A family member?
No, I agree 100%. I rarely now get into, and I need to just put in the clarification here. I have a wonderful supportive family. I do. But I very, very, very rarely ever share with them what I'm doing or why I'm doing it. Because it just, you're not going to get the feedback that you want.
No. And actually, unless you're talking to someone in business, they'll probably want to please you, or they'll either tell you you're barking mad and it's a stupid idea, or they'll tell you it's brilliant when it's not, because they just want to do right by you, and that's not because they don't love us or want us to be the best that we can possibly be.
And it's not their mindset either.
No.
They're trying to watch a TV program, and you've come in all excited telling them something, and they're like, actually trying to watch this. Shut up.
My husband used to work in marketing. We used to work in advertising, actually. And the other day I was talking, and he's a really good sounding board, actually. I was chatting away about something. He said, hang on a minute, give me a pen. So he went, oh no, that doesn't work. I said, what were you doing? He said, I was trying to do a play on word. I said, that's so old school marketing, get out. But I was trying. I went, yeah, but you failed and you get out. But I'm very fortunate that he's quite good because of his background, business development, working in advertising and for the paper and stuff. So he's quite a good person. I use him usually to run around the going, celebrating my wins, and he's always there to celebrate my wins with me. And he's sometimes quite helpful with marketing, sometimes not so helpful.
But he does know why it's important and where it's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And so do my kids, actually. I'm very fortunate that they get it as well, and can get as excited as I do when a new client comes on board and they want to hear all about them and what do they do. Their favourite clients are the ones that I have with dogs, because we don't have a dog, and my son is a massive, massive fan. He's desperate for a dog. So they're really happy when I get a client that has a dog. My new criteria, my ideal perfect soul client must have dog.
Yeah. I must, because that's one of my things for a podcast. If I know they have a dog, I always ask them. That's the first thing I'll ask them. Is what's your dog's called? How did you get it? Where did it come from? Why did you choose that dog? Because I love dogs. I love dogs. I love cats. So if I discover that they have a dog or a pet, that will become the conversation. Even if it's
an icebreaker.
That's actually the other. I learned that by default. It actually came from a place of interest. It's like, I know you've got this dog. What's your dog called? Blah blah blah. And what I realised is they then suddenly kind of all the boundaries go down, and they're like, oh yeah, the dog, blah blah blah. And then you have this really free flowing conversation. But that was a fluke. That wasn't some kind of skill set that I was pre-armed with before I started. That was just something I learned by just happy. That was the universe having a nice day. That was the universe helping me out.
The universe is always trying to help you. You just find a book for you. There's plenty I could choose from.
I've got loads. But I actually do think I was halfway through that conversation, then we got into internet disruptions, I do think it's about, like you were saying, it's about being clear with your intentions, but actually breaking it down and understanding why it truly matters to you. Where is the value and the integrity in it? Because you're never going to achieve it if it's because, like I say, the winning the lottery scenario is very rarely about winning the lottery. It's what it represents to you. So wishing to win the lottery isn't what's going to happen, because you're worrying about finances. You're worrying about things externally in your life. So that's what your desire should be, to always feel comfortable and happy, not focusing on the lottery.
It's Gabby Bernstein who always says, all you need to do is feel good.
Yeah.
That's all you need to concentrate on, is feeling really good. I quite often say it before I get out of bed. I always say, before my eyes are open, today's going to be a really good day.
But the cliche,
the intention for a really good day.
But the cliche, laughter is the best medicine. That's where it actually comes from. It was never about physical health like we think it is. It was about the prevention being better than cure. If you can find laughter in your life every day, you're just that is the perfect medicine for a good life.
Yeah. I was going to add something, because we've gone on to because I am into law of attraction and manifesting, and when you work with me, you get a sprinkling of that, and depending on where you're at with it, you'll get a heavier sprinkling or a lighter sprinkling. It's that simple.
Let's see, what have I got here?
But one of the things I always say, David, is
do you know that one?
And I haven't read that one. Don't start, because I've got a list as long as my arm. But one of the things I always say is, it's not. No, I haven't read that one.
Abraham
Don't
Hicks.
show me any more books
You've
because
not got Abraham Hicks. And you
no.
say
I
you're the
listened to
law of
Abraham.
attraction. You say
I,
law of
I
attraction, and
didn't
you
say I
don't.
was it. No, I listened to Abraham. I quite often get Abraham up on YouTube. I like listening to Abraham on YouTube. I've got a client who's listening to 8 hours of Abraham Hicks on abundance.
Trust the process.
Could you let me finish, David? Just stop with the books.
I just so you know, the crackpot that you're talking to.
Okay, you cannot have the woo without the do. So I say to my
The
clients,
what?
you can't have the woo without the do. It's not my phrase. It came from Penny Elliott.
Sorry, I thought you said the womb. I was like, what?
No, the woo. Can't have
Yeah.
the woo without the do. It's not my phrase. It belongs to Penny Elliott, who was my business coach. She's in New Zealand. I worked with her, I think, back in 2018, 2017. And it's always stuck with me. It doesn't matter how many times you say your daily mantras and do your journaling. You can't wish it to happen. You have to take the action. And so that's why working with me is really important that we know where we're going so that we can create the plan and we can take the action, because that's the sign the universe needs so that it knows you're ready to receive your desires and the outcomes that you want in your business or inside your life. But yeah, you can't have the woo without the do.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. It's definitely because I am big into the law of attraction or the law of manifesting, whatever you feel, or however comfortable you are. I don't. I'm not a huge proponent of The Secret, as I think that kind of a lot of these things is, again, because it came from the angle of, if you want to be if you want to be rich and wealthy, you just have to imagine it. And it's like, no, because if it's not what you truly want, you can't manifest that. It has to be in tune with your true desire, and most people don't know what that true desire is. And then you have that old programming, that old energy, the old patterns of thinking, the self-doubt that is a process that you have to work through. And I always use the hot air balloon analogy. And it's like, if you imagine the way you think, the old habits, the old energy that's trapped in your body and you sort of like, and all of that, it's no matter what mantra you use and no matter how high your frequency, if you haven't dealt with that, it's still the sandbag holding you to the ground. And every time you manage to cut one of those sandbags and let it loose, you're going to raise your vibration a little bit higher. You're going to raise your belief a little bit higher. That frequency goes a bit higher. And that coincides with where you are with your own self-worth and your belief, not only in what you deserve, but what you can actually create and manifest. But if you're still holding on to the fact that you had a shitty childhood, you're still holding on to the fact that you were poor as a kid, if you're still holding on to the fact that you don't have a qualification, you're not good enough, somebody else is better than you, instead of, no, the right things, the right people will turn up for me. You have to believe that, and the only way you can believe that is by working on those doubts, working on those demons to let them go. You can't remove them, but so that when they pop up, they don't hold any power or authority over you. And when you find yourself in that place, you cut another sandbag, and as Abraham Hicks would call it, you then go into the vortex, and you stay in the vortex, and the hot air balloon, going back to my analogy, raises, and you then get to fly, and you're no longer carrying sandbags that hold you down in the lower energies that stop the manifestation from happening.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Talk about that one all day, really, couldn't we?
We could do that on another podcast if you.
It's a whole different discussion, really, isn't it?
So yeah, bringing it back to your business, which is the reason I got you back on here, because, like I said in the very first podcast, I don't even think I asked you what the name of your business is.
Well, I work as me. I am me. I am. But what I call myself is the energetic coach, because I believe that with the right energy, you can achieve anything.
I agree.
And that right energy comes from knowing where you want to go, putting it in sat nav, taking the action, and doing that work. And for me, that's what everything I do is about. And at the moment, I've been saying that I'm on a mission. So I'm on a mission to inspire, elevate, and guide 100 female entrepreneurs or more to realize their full potential. So that potential that I was talking about at the beginning, where it's all bubbling up, not what they're hiding, what's bubbling up. And I have the privilege of doing that by working with me on a one-to-one basis or in a group program. And that is how I will, women can work in that way with me. I don't have any group programs for men, but I do coach men as well. And I work with them on a one-to-one basis. And I like being able to work with both. And that's kind of the way I have changed the way I talk about my business, and it is very female focused, but it still brings men. And that's fine by me, because I'm happy to work with both.
So what is your business called again?
If you go to the website is lindseyburden.com.
There we go. For the first time in this podcast, it's actually there. lindseyburden.com.
That's three podcasts, and that's the first time it's been mentioned.
It's the quality of the interviewer.
He's brilliant. He is.
And actually, just so if people do reach out to you, what is the process that you start them on?
I usually suggest that they book a business freedom coaching call, which you can find a link to on my website, which is lindseyburden.com, just to get that in again.
Yeah.
Because when you work with a business coach, it's a two-way street, and it's really important that we're a really good fit, so that we have a connection to be able to move forward. So I usually start there, and I have done business freedom coaching calls where I've been able to go, these are the steps you need, and I can literally go, you can go and do those, because not everyone is ready to work with a coach, but you will always come away from the call with clarity of what needs to be done, what you need to focus your attention on. And that could be quite short term, it can be longer term. So I usually suggest that people book a business freedom coaching call, or they can join my Make It Happen Facebook group, which is the place for entrepreneurs to connect, engage, and grow. And I love being in there. It's a real awesome place. And I do free live training in there. I do a weekly masterclass. We have topics and conversation for each day, which we're just about to just do a bit of a revamp and a lift again. And that's where you'll find me hanging out most days in my Facebook group, which I love being in. And of course, you can find me on social media. If you search for Lindsey Burden, you'll find me on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, but I don't spend much time there.
No. And all of those links would be on lindseyburden.com.
If you go to my website, there is a little thing you can find my Facebook group, my Twitter account, my Instagram account, all from the homepage of my website.
And your Linktree account, is that on there?
Because you have a very posh one. Oh, I love Linktree.
Yeah, you have a very posh one, don't you?
Yeah, go to my Instagram account and click on my bio. You'll go to Linktree, which is where you can find links to everything, all my freebies, all my downloads, my blogs, and everything.
So just before we finish up completely, what would your 10-year plan be for you right now?
I'm going to be a millionaire.
Not a multi-millionaire, because we've got to think big.
Well, yes. And interesting you should say that, because the other day I was thinking, why did I just put millionaire? Why don't I just put a multi-millionaire?
Because do you remember when you and I were kids, millionaire was massive. They were rare. Whereas now there's like so many millionaires, it's just like billionaires and not even rare. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember those old films? Like there's a ransom of $1 million, and they're like, how do we raise the money? Governments were worried, whereas now, like people are like, I'll pay that tomorrow. When do you want it? Yeah. But
don't you think that's amazing that we're in a world where anyone, not just Del Boy, anyone can be a millionaire if you set your mind to it, and if you want that. And actually, that's on my 10-year plan. And when I work with my clients, I share my planning with alignment. So when I do my 10-year plan, I write myself a letter from 10 years in the future, and it starts, wow, you are a millionaire. And then it says all things. I also do a letter from to myself 3 years in the future. So mine says in this year, Gavin, which is my husband, was able to make the decision to give up work. So that's come 2 years forward. That wasn't in the plan. He's ahead of my plan. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, so I write a letter. So I do my 10-year plan, and then I write a letter from the future, 10 years in the future, and 3 years in the future to myself here and now. And I usually do one for the 12 months as well, just to celebrate what I've received and what I've achieved and what's happened.
And that's a
I
great
know,
place.
I live in the future.
No, and that's a great place to finish the podcast. Thank you.